This episode is brought to you by Netflix. Tonight, witness the end of an era. John Cena takes center stage for his final appearance ever on Monday Night Raw. One last match, one unforgettable farewell. Celebrate the legacy of a true WWE legend. Don't miss John Cena's farewell moment. Monday Night Raw, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific Time, only on Netflix. Witness the moment everyone will be talking about.
So good, so good, so good.
New markdowns are on at your Nordstrom Rack store. Save even more, up to 70% on dresses, tops, boots, and handbags to give and get.
Because I always find something amazing.
Just so many good brands.
I get an extra 5% off with my Nordstrom credit card. Total queen treatment.
Join the Nordy Club at Nordstrom Rack to unlock our best deals. Big gifts, big perks. That's why you rack.
This is Optimal Health Daily. Strength Building Beyond Specificity by Ross Enamait of rosstraining.com. And I'm Dr. Neil Malik, reading you some of the most popular health and fitness blogs out there, with permission from the websites, of course. All right, with that, let's get right to today's post as we optimize your life. Strength Building Beyond Specificity by Ross Enamait of rosstraining.com. Throughout this blog's history, as well as my boxing page, I have preached the importance of specificity. For instance, I've said that if you wish to become a better boxer, you need to spend more time boxing. Clearly, this concept extends beyond the ring and is relevant to any sport. Regardless of your event, there is no substitute for specificity and experience. If you wish to progress beyond the norm, you'll need ample time practicing and competing. In many ways, the same logic applies to strength training. If you wish to improve at a particular exercise, you'll need to perform it. For example, if you want to improve your barbell squat, you'd better spend some time under the bar. Once again, the significance of specificity must not be overlooked. With that said, recognizing the importance of specificity doesn't mean that you should limit yourself to repeatedly practicing the same exercise or activity. It is inevitable that you will eventually need to expand your repertoire. During such times, I view my coaching role as that of a problem solver. My job is to identify weak links in the chain and then devise solutions to overcome them. Become a problem solver. In my last entry, I discussed the importance of creativity. There's more to being creative than finding new or different ways to exercise, however. Creativity is also important when seeking solutions to lingering problems. As a coach, you'll only go so far if you limit yourself to traditional thinking. I'm a firm believer that the best coaches spend the bulk of their time thinking outside the box. Unfortunately, many others fail to recognize the importance of creativity and problem solving. Instead, they view hard work or more work as the answer to everything. It isn't always that simple. As much as I encourage working hard, it is imperative that such work is allocated appropriately. Simply doing more of an exercise to fix a problem within that exercise is rarely the answer. There's often better ways to address specific problems. A pull-up based example. To explore the significance of a problem-solving approach, I'll use pull-up performance as an example. One of the most frequent questions that I receive looks something like this: how can I improve my pull-up numbers? The common response to this question would be to spend more time working from the bar. In many ways, that answer wouldn't be wrong. A large part of pull-up strength originates from the pull-up bar. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to know that you'll only get so good at an exercise if you aren't performing it. Once again, though, if there's a weak link within an exercise, it's useful to attack that bottleneck directly. For instance, a weak link that often limits pull-up performance is hand strength. Stronger hands, particularly support grip, almost always translates into better performance from the bar. 1. Support grip. A few years ago, I worked with a client who had above average upper body strength, with the exception of his hands and grip. This individual had never taken the time to develop his lower arms. As a result, he struggled from the pull-up bar unless he was using straps. That was never a problem until he began the application process to become a police officer. He wouldn't be able to use straps when performing pull-ups at the academy. Consequently, he came to me looking to improve his pull-up strength as fast as possible. I immediately recognized that he had plenty of upper body strength, but below average hand grip strength. Thus, the solution to his problem wasn't to just perform more pull-ups. The approach that I took was to attack the bottleneck directly. We needed to improve his support grip strength. One of the primary exercises that we added was a heavy farmer's walk. We also added bar hangs to each pull-up session. These simple additions were included a few days per week. In less than a month, his pull-up numbers had risen considerably. 2. Band resistance. Another pull-up weakness that I've seen in many athletes becomes visible as they approach the bar. In other words, the athlete is strong at the bottom, but noticeably weaker at the top. I first noticed this problem myself many years ago while progressing with weighted reps. I was always strong at the bottom, but would get stuck a few inches from the bar. Performing more sets or reps with or without weight never seemed to improve this weakness. That's when I began brainstorming and eventually came up with band-resisted reps. By attaching a resistance band to my waist, I was able to focus on my weak point directly. In the years since, I've had numerous athletes benefit from this variation. I've observed considerable improvements with both body weight and weighted reps. 3. Get strong. Another solution that I've had success with in many athletes is to simply develop more all-around strength. I couldn't tell you how many times I've heard from someone who is trying to improve their pull-up numbers without doing anything but pull-ups. When you limit yourself to a single exercise, there's only so much volume that you can accumulate with that exercise. Spreading out your workload to other movements will allow you to increase overall volume and intensity throughout each session. I've actually had several athletes improve their pull-up numbers by taking a temporary break from the pull-up bar. Instead, we develop strength in other movements while giving the body time to recover from the excessive volume that was performed before. Stronger bodies tend to be better at everything. Don't put all of your eggs into a single basket. 4. Lose weight. Considering that pull-ups are the example for this entry, one of the easiest ways to improve at the exercise has nothing to do with exercise. If you are carrying extra weight and lose 5 to 10 pounds, you can expect immediate improvements from the pull-up bar. A lighter body is useful for almost any body weight movement. Once again, there's more to improving an exercise than simply performing the exercise. It's imperative that you consider all options when devising your strategy for improvement. Final thoughts. Clearly, the examples from this entry are just a few of many options. My goal isn't for you to follow this advice, but rather to get you looking for bottlenecks that might be limiting your own performance or that of your athletes. Specificity will always be important, but it's often equally important that you look beyond it. There's more to coaching than instructing athletes to practice an exercise or sport. Good coaches also seek out alternative ways for their athletes to improve. In doing so, not only will you prevent boredom and overuse from excessively performing the same movement, but you'll also develop more all-around strength and ability. That's what I call a win-win scenario. You just listened to the post titled Strength Building Beyond Specificity by Ross Enamait of rosstraining.com, and I'll be right back with my commentary. Right now, there's a talented person out there who could take your company to the next level. Do you want to hope they see your job post before your competitors? Or do you want to match with them with Indeed sponsored jobs? Stop struggling to get your job post even seen on other sites. Give your job the best chance to be seen with Indeed sponsored jobs. When I was looking to hire, it was so slow and overwhelming. I wish I had used Indeed. Spend more time interviewing candidates who check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, more results now with Indeed sponsored jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/health. Just go to Indeed.com/health right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Indeed.com/health. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Do it the right way with Indeed.
Every holiday shopper's got a list, but Ross shoppers, you've got a mission. Like a gift run that turns into a disco snow globe, throw pillows, and PJs for the whole family, dog included. At Ross, holiday magic isn't about spending more, it's about giving more for less. Ross, work your magic.
Dr. Neal here for my commentary. I think Ross and I would agree that when we talk about specificity and maybe not doing that specific exercise all the time, doesn't mean that you should never do the exercise. In my experience, when folks aren't good at, let's say, pull-ups, since that was the example Ross used, what they'll want to do is say, yeah, sure, let's work on the other exercises that might help me get better at doing pull-ups. But that's just their way of avoiding doing another pull-up. They'll make excuses and find ways to never have to go under that bar and pull themselves up to it. And so they'll be happy working on some of the other supportive movements that might help them get that head above the pull-up bar, but they'll never actually end up going back to trying to do another pull-up. And so yes, I completely agree with Ross when he says, find those weaknesses and work on them, but don't forget to go back to the original exercise that you were trying to perform in the first place. Don't use these other moves as an excuse to avoid doing that specific exercise. And if you're not so great at performing certain exercises, that's okay. I was and am the same way. I'm always kind of slow to learn new moves, even with all of my experience. And in fact, I still remember when I was trying to learn how to do a proper pull-up, I was terrible at it. I could not pull myself more than halfway up towards the bar. But I worked on it. I practiced trying to do more pull-ups. I would do assisted pull-ups, but I would also strengthen my chest muscles. I would do bench press. I would do rows. I would do other things to complement those muscles. And then eventually, with practice, I was able to do my first pull-up. So again, don't be afraid to go back and try those specific exercises again, especially the ones that you struggle with. All right, that's enough out of me for today. I hope you have a great start to your week. Thank you as always for listening. I'll be back here tomorrow as usual, so I'll see you there where your optimal life awaits.